So Parshas Vayishlach begins, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. Yaakov sent angels, literally angels, right? In front of him. Am I being funny? Am I doing something odd?
Yeah, you.
What? Okay. So, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. Yaakov sends Malachim. We have to know what that is. In front of him, Elisaf. So he's, according to the simple understanding, he sent messengers. In other words, Yaakov knows he's going to meet up with Esau. He knows Esau wants to kill him. He wants to find a way that that's not going to happen. So he has a whole process in this parsha that he does. The first thing he does is he sends out messengers to tell Esau he's coming, so he shouldn't shock him. But the word he uses here for messengers, it does mean messengers, but it's not the normal word. This word also can mean angels. A malach is an angel. And if you read Rashi, Rashi says malachim mamish. He sent literally angels. He didn't send like men from his group to go run up ahead and tell Esau that his brother's coming. He sent real angels. So it says, Al Esav Achiv, he sent these angels to go out and see Esau, his brother, Arza Sa'ir, who was in the land of Sa'ir, Sada Edom, in the fields of Edom. And he says to him, go to Esau and tell them, your servant Yaakov, right, is coming. He lived with Lavan and so forth. So, we know the story. Yaakov sends these angels. Eventually they catch up to him. And the whole process is that Yaakov is trying to make peace with his brother. So one is he subjugates himself. He says, I'm your servant. You're greater than me. Right? Another one is that he tells him that he gives him gifts. He sends him bribes. He belittles what he has. He says, what do I have compared to you? You're so great. In other words, Yaakov is manipulating the situation for one reason. He wants peace. That's all. So he's showing us how he does it. But the commentaries immediately want to ask that Yaakov sent angels. So you imagine this. Esau is a bad guy, right? Esau is really the kind of person whose life is engulfed in doing wrong. Right? He comes from a righteous family and he goes the wrong way. And he's going to kill his brother. Right? So you can imagine, what do you think would happen if Esau suddenly comes face to face with an angel? An angel comes to him and says all this stuff to him. I'm not talking about a man comes to him. An angel comes to him. And Esau could clearly recognize an angel. So can you imagine if an angel came to you and he said something to you? Like, would you actually say no? Could you actually argue with him? You probably would faint on the spot. An angel comes to you. Well, how could a guy like Esau, he's not like us, we're regular people, he was super bad, right? Not like Yaakov, okay, so he could interact with angels and heavenly beings and be close to God and talk to God. Esau was the total opposite, right? It's one thing for you or I to come into contact with an angel, it would you'd think we were mentally ill. Like, we would be crazy. Like, we would come in contact with them. When we finally could prove to ourselves that we actually did, we'd lose our free will. We would start saying, I better follow the Torah completely all the time because these guys are staring me in the face. It's like having God sitting next to you, right? It's like you're driving your car and you got a policeman right behind you. You're not going to speed, right? It's a fact. So you got these angels. So why didn't Esau sort of say, all right, I give up. I'm not going to do anything bad. You send these angels to me, right? It didn't do anything to him, right? And that was exactly the point. That Esau, right, was such a person that he understood the physical world and the spiritual world. He lived there. He was Yitzchak's son, Abraham's grandson. He knew these people. He saw miracles. He lived with prophets. And he chose to be this way. To send an angel to him in no way affected him in a negative or in a positive, because he had been totally affected by this. He lived with this. It was normal to him, right? For you and I, it would not be normal, but for him, it was totally normal. And here you see how a person can have free will, and he can choose to do wrong, even in front of everything telling him the opposite. Everything in the world tells him turn left, and he says, I want to turn right, I'm turning right, I don't care what anyone says, and he hurts himself. Right here, Esau knows that there's prophets, knows there's a God, knows that there's angels, and he still kills people. He still does the things he does, right? Clearly you see that he was a very determined person to be the way he was. And he gets this honestly. His family was that way. Not in a bad way, though. His family, like look at Yaakov. Well, Yaakov has to go through all of those years, right, to get his wife. Year after year of work to get his wife. He was determined. He was patient. He did what he had to do, no matter how long it took him. Esau was the same. Esau was determined. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. And you don't bother me with the facts. Don't bother me with truth. This is what I want to do, and this is what I'm doing. So the same way that Yaakov was so determined and disciplined to do what's right, Esau was the same way to do what was wrong. He had the same ability. It was the trait that is so common in Jews of having a stiff neck, being full of chutzpah. Right? They say the more you try to torture a Jew, right, the less you're going to get out of them. Right? That's why we keep using an example of an egg for things. We talk about eggs in a lot of our rituals. We have an egg. A hard-boiled egg, it teaches you the more you cook an egg, the harder it gets. Right? The more fire and heat you put on an egg, the harder it gets. That's how we are. And sometimes it's very good, because when people try to influence us to do wrong and we know what's right, we're going to do right. But sometimes when we want to do wrong, no matter what you say, I'm still going to do it. And that showed you Esau. That gives us a good indication of who he was, but of how he was able to live the way he did. So now he goes and you have this entire thing where at the bottom of this page, the angels return and they say, we went to your brother to Esau. He's heading towards you and he has 400 men with him. And it says that Yaakov became frightened, right? So here's what he does. He divides his people, right, all the people he's with, into two groups. Right? And he says if Esau comes to one group and he strikes it down, then the other half will survive, right? In other words, he's doing a military tactic. This whole story, it says in the Gemara, is what a Jew should study before he goes into any negotiations with the government, because it tells you how we're looked at. You know, the government. I mean, in our time, governments are our government, for instance, is a kind government. But in a place where a government like the Romans, where you do it their way or they'll kill you, you go to negotiate with them, you might not come back. They might just kill you. You don't like what you're saying? They'll kill you. So how do you do it? So they're showing us how it's done. You bribe them. You cajole them. You make them feel that they're better than you. You do anything you can to try to convince them, right? In order to do what you need, and that's what Yaakov's doing. So he says here then, if you look at the rest of this page, he talks about all the stuff that he gave him. But I want to really look, just because of time, at the bottom of 175, where after he's gone through that, now that day is over. He hasn't met Esau yet. Esau is approaching, and he's going to see him in the morning. So he has to go to sleep. So he takes all of his people, he puts them on one side of the river, knowing that Esau won't get across that river without Yaakov defending his family. And Yaakov goes back on the other side of the river, on the original side, and he goes to sleep. So where is he sleeping? He's sleeping on the Temple Mount here. He's sleeping, and that was the other dream. So he's sleeping, and it says, this is what happens. Now, verse 25. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. Jacob goes to go to sleep, and a man comes and starts wrestling with him. Right? Now, this is a wrestle match to the death. This is not just like for television. Right? When he perceived that he could not overcome, when the man saw that he could not beat Jacob, he struck the socket of his hip. He hit him in the sciatic nerve, right? The sciatic nerve in your hip. So that Jacob's hip socket dislocated as he wrestled with him. And then this guy says to Jacob, let me go, for dawn has broken. And he says, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Now, so far, we're talking about Yaakov wrestling with a man. And Yaakov beats the man. And the guy says, I got to get out, I want to go, let me go. And Yaakov says, you have to bless me. What kind of who's he blessing? He's a guy, a man. So clearly we know this is not a man. This is an angel. But it's not an angel like Yaakov sent. But if Yaakov sent angels to Esau, Esau reciprocated by sending an angel to him. But it was not the same kind of angel. This was the angel of Esau. He's known as Samiel. That's the name of him. And he And this wrestling match is a description of the future of the next 2,000 years of Jewish dispersion from the Romans till today, of the fight, like the night that they fought through the whole night, the wrestled through the night, is us and the world going on for 2,000 years. This was going on. And then what happens at the end? So it says that what happens at the end is that ultimately the Jewish people win, but we have injuries. We don't win easy. And he injures our leg. It says that the commentaries say that he did injure his leg, but he also injured his ability to procreate. It's the same area of the body. So it says that to tell you that in the future that we'll win, but we're going to lose Jews. Jews will assimilate. Jews will become Christians. Jews will become Muslims. Jews will become nothing. We'll lose them. We won't win. We won't walk out of this 100%. We're going to take a loss, and that's what it is. So here you have Yaakov wrestling with this. Now he knows it's an angel. It's now morning, right? That means like in the symbol, the Mashiach is coming, right? Game over. The angel lost. Jacob wins. So he says to Jacob, "Okay, you won. It's time for me to go." So where is he going? So he's an angel. He's going back to heaven, so to speak. And it says he's going back to say Shira, to praise God. So you say, of all the funny things, he wants to get out of, Yaakov's holding him back from going back to praise God. This is the angel of Esau. He's a bad guy. What do you mean praise God? Was he praising God? He should be against God. Yaakov is on the side of God. Esau's fighting against him. The angel is the head of Esau. He's the spiritual leader of Esau. So what's he want to praise God for? And this is a very important point. The point is that this angel is the symbol of our Yetzer Hara, of our inclination inside of us to do the wrong thing. Okay? We all have a struggle all the time. There's a struggle between what you want to do and what you should do. I want to sleep late and not go to shul. Right? That's what I want to do. Right? But I should go to shul. I want to not give this money for charity so I can buy myself lunch. I should give money for charity. I want to do this, but I should do that. The desire to do what you want to do and do it now, that's called our Yetzer Hara, our negative influence. The symbol of that is this angel. The struggle between good and evil, right? That we have inside of us, a struggle between good and evil. And we want to do the right thing. So here this angel is struggling with Yaakov on that level. Yaakov wins. Ultimately, we do the right thing. So what does he want to do? He wants to go praise God. You'd say the devil, so to speak, the angel who's fighting for the enemy wants to praise God, but he lost. Jacob won. And that tells you the point. The purpose of the Yetzer Hara, the purpose of tempting us to do wrong, that God made it, that we'll be tempted to do wrong, the success of that angel to cause us to do wrong is he is successful when he fails, not when he succeeds. When he succeeds, he gets us to do what we shouldn't do. Right? His job is to tempt us, but his goal is for us to not listen, not to do it. Right? You see, there's a very interesting medrash. The medrash says that when the world was created, you look at it, it says pretty much every day, it says that God looked at what he did, and it was good. Right? It was evening, it was morning, it was good. But one day it says it was very good. So the Gemara says, very good? What's very good? That Monday is good, Tuesday is good, suddenly Thursday is very good? What's very good? It says, very good? Oh, that's easy. Evil is very good. It sounds like Mae West, right? That good is good, but evil is even better. Right? She was like that, right? She's, when I'm good, but when I'm bad, I'm better. But the idea is that they're saying good is one thing, but the creation of evil, God created evil that day, that's very good. What does that mean? It means that without evil in the world, there is no good in the world. Unless you can choose to do wrong, then doing right is not a choice. Right? Unless you're tempted to do the wrong thing, then you are not disciplined to do the right thing. If everything in the world is kosher, how hard is it to keep kosher? If all you have to do to be a righteous Jew is to think good things, how hard is it to be a righteous Jew? Because everything is good. The point is, the fact that you're always being tested and always having things to do, right, that's because there's evil in the world. And therefore, by God creating evil, He creates good. Because there is no good without evil. There is no kosher without unkosher. There's no right thing to do unless there's a wrong thing to do. And we always have to choose to do the right thing. So that's what's going on here. That the angel, his goal is to fail. His goal is to come and say, okay, I'm going to get you to eat at McDonald's. And if he fails and you don't eat there, then he goes back to God and he praises God. He sings. He says, I did his job. If he gets you to eat at McDonald's, he fails. Because he's supposed to tempt you, but he's not supposed to win. He works for God. He doesn't work for some devil. There's only one power in the world, that's God. There is no other power. So he works for God. In fact, if you look in the book of Job, in the first chapter, you have a very interesting thing. You have a meeting of the board of the world. It opens up with a board meeting with God as chairman of the board, and all of his ministering angels are around the table, and they're all talking. One of those angels is the angel of death, the Yetzer Hara, what we're talking about, right? The evil inclination, or the Satan, so to speak. But how could the Satan be sitting at God's table that God's his boss? Because he is. The job of the Satan is to push you to do wrong, but he hopes that you don't listen. He wants you to do right, but his job is to get you to do wrong. And if you don't listen to him, then he's successful. And that's what's happening here. So he says, I lost. Jacob won. I have to go back up to heaven and praise God. That's what he's saying. But Yaakov says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. So the angel's stuck now. He can't praise God because Yaakov's got him like this, right? So he says, okay. So he says to Yaakov, what's your name? Right? So he says, Jacob. He says, okay, from now on, you're not going to be called Jacob. You're going to be called Yisrael, because you wrestled with man and God and you won. That is, you struggled against the negativity, against evil, and you won. And that's what Yisrael means. So now Yaakov says to him, okay, you're such a chacham, you give me my bracha. What's your name? So he says, why do you ask my name? And he gives him the blessing. Now, first thing is, we sort of thought he gave him the blessing when he gave him the name. Second thing is, he asks him his name, he doesn't answer him. He gives him a blessing. All he says back to him, he does a famous Jewish thing. Yaakov says to him, what's your name? He answers back with a question. He says, what do you want to know my name for? Right? And that's it. And Yaakov doesn't give him an answer. He doesn't give him his name, and nothing. So the commentaries say that he does give him his name. That's giving him his name. Because who is this? This is the Yetzer Hara. This is the thing that comes to present evil to us. In one generation, the Yetzer Hara is communism. Because the Jewish kids are all becoming communists because they're starving to death. Then one of them is Christianity, because they're coming and saying, we'll give you a good life if you come and become a Christian. Another time it's Islam. Another time it's secularism. Another time it's whatever it is in the generation. Every generation has its test. Like I know that in the generation that after World War I, maybe for longer than that, but I just know from personal experience that women covering their hair is a mitzvah, right? For a married woman to cover her hair. So after World War I, when a lot of the people came to America, very few of the great rabbis' wives, no, not very few, some of the great rabbis' wives did not cover their hair. And you say, how could that be? The great rabbis, right? These are like the leaders of the world, and their wives were not following the rule. And you'd say, well, if you ever looked at what those wigs looked like back then, it looked like they took the end of a straw broom, put it on their head, and that was their wig. So many women who were self-respecting women would not want to go out like that, right? So for whatever reason, the challenge for women of that generation was to wear a wig. It was a real challenge. Today, you look at the young women; they're all wearing them. They don't think twice about it. It's almost like a badge of honor. But back then, our great-grandmothers and grandmothers, right, the most righteous women struggled with that. So in that generation, right, his name was wearing a wig. That was his name. That's what he struggled with. That's not his name now. Now we have a different one. Every generation has different things. It's just like airports. Do you know that in 1969, take a guess what the most used airport, the most number of planes landing and leaving from in the world was? What do you think it was?
London.
Heathrow. Yeah.
So you'll never guess it. It was in Saigon, Vietnam, because they were all the military, right? Now, nothing. Nobody goes to Saigon. It's, a couple of planes here and there. You get more planes probably landing in Buffalo than in Saigon. But in 1969, that was the biggest airport in the world. There are more flights there than anywhere else. Things change. Things change. That's how it is, right? It was that way before. You had Russia and America, the two big superpowers. The whole world was afraid of Russia and America. Today, are they afraid of Russia and America? Nah. Things change, right? Every generation you have different things. You had times when Jews were so enthralled with becoming socialist that they're losing thousands and thousands of Jews to it. Today, Jews are assimilating. They don't have causes. They're not becoming socialists. They're changing for different ways. Every generation has a different challenge. It's not the same. Your children's generation is not the same as yours, and your grandchildren's generation is not the same as theirs. Each one has different challenges, things that are affecting them. That's what he's saying here. Yaakov says, look, you're the one who's challenging my offspring forever. Tell me who you are. I want to tell them how to fight you. And he says back, what do you want to know my name for? I'm going to be different every day. I'm not the same guy all the time. Today, I'm an angel wrestling with you. Tomorrow, I'm going to be communism. I'm going to be socialism. I'm going to be this group or that group in order to take you away from Judaism. You don't need to know my name. It doesn't help you any, because I change constantly. That's why he doesn't answer his name. The answer is, what do you want to know my name for? That's the answer. And then he blesses him, because that's the end of the conversation. He answered it. He answered the question. And then he blesses him. Right? So, and it says, if it goes on, that that Yaakov was limping, because that's where he was injured by the angel, which the commentaries say means that some of the offspring of Yaakov will be lost in the future. But it says that in order for us to acknowledge and give proper acknowledgement to this story, the children of Israel do not eat this part of an animal till this day, meaning forever. That part is the gid anasha. It's the back part of the animal. A gid is a tendon. It's like the sciatic nerve. On a human being, the sciatic nerve is about this big. It's about that thick, like your thumb. On an animal, it's even bigger. Right? It's a very big nerve. And there were people in tradition who knew how to take that nerve out, and you could eat the rest of the animal. But the Ashkenazim, we just cut off the back of the animal. We don't eat it at all. Yeah. We don't eat T-bone steaks, sirloin steaks, rump roast, none of that, because we don't have the tradition anymore of how to get rid of that. But that's the mitzvah. So here the Torah is giving us one of our first mitzvahs. Right, in our history, that we don't, the children of Yisrael or of Yaakov, we don't eat that part of the animal, to remind us of this. And it's been the case till this day. Today we still don't. We have, like I said, there are some Sephardim who have a tradition how to take that out, and they'll eat the parts of the animal. But the Ashkenaz, right, won't even eat it when the Sephardim do it, because we don't have that tradition. So we won't eat those parts of the animal. Right, and now after that struggle, so of course this is a symbolic struggle between Yaakov and Esav. Now he did it. Now it's going to happen in this world. It happened already. Yaakov has the indication, you're going to struggle, and you're going to get hurt, but you'll win. Now Esav shows up. Now it's time for the Super Bowl. Before it was the pregame. Yeah, Jacob raises his eyes and Esav's coming. He has 400 men. So Yaakov immediately divides the children up. He divides everyone up so that Esav's not going to be able to capture everybody. The last line on the page, Esav runs towards him, embraces him, falls upon his neck, kisses him, and then they wept. Esav does the opposite of what you'd expect. Esav said, I'm going to kill him. Right? He comes with an army. He doesn't come with a bunch of nice, friendly people. He brings an army with him. Every indication is he's going to kill him. He runs up to his brother and he hugs him. Like, what is that? So first thing is the commentaries say you have to read between the lines. Esav ran towards him. Okay. If you look at the last line on the Hebrew page on 176, look at the second to last word on the page, right there on this page, second to last word. You notice all the dots on top of it? Every single letter has a dot.
Yeah.
That word is kiss. That's what the word is. Right? And he kissed him and he cried. Why does there so many dots on top? Because the Torah is telling us there's more to this word than just the simple meaning. It says in the Medrash that Esau didn't come to kiss his brother. He tried to bite him in the neck. But that God saw it coming and turned Yaakov's neck into marble. And when Esau went to bite him, he only hit stone. So is it literal? Of course not literal. But Esau came to hurt Yaakov. He wanted to hurt him. And when he couldn't do it, right, then he gave in. Right? Because God was guarding him. And so now we have this conversation, which is a very interesting conversation. Esau raises his eyes and he sees the women and children. He says, "Who are these?" Why does he ask them that? What's wrong with Yaakov having women and children? Because Yaakov stole Esau's brachas, right? The brachas that Yaakov got were spiritual. They were all spiritual. About, Esau is going to inherit this world now, and Yaakov will inherit the spiritual world. So Esau looks and says, if you stole my brachas and you're going to get the spiritual world, and I have the physical world, then who are all these? You stole these people. These must be mine. The world belongs to me. All of the animals, all the money is mine. What are you doing with them? If you're such a spiritual guy, right here, this is the first anti-Semitic remark. You're such a spiritual guy. You believe in God. What are you doing with all those? Those are mine. You're stealing from me. Who are these to you? So he says, the children whom God has given to your servant. Then the maidservants came forward. So all of the people that were with Yaakov come and bow down to Esau. And so then Esau says, what was your purpose that I should meet all these people? So Yaakov says, because I want you to like us. I'm here because I want to have favor in your eyes. So Esau says the following. He's saying, why did you send me all these gifts? You send me gifts, right? Yaakov is bribing him. He wants him to like him, right? That's what he says. I want favor in your eyes. He sends him animals, he sends him money, he sends all kinds of stuff. So Esau says, look, I don't need that stuff. I have plenty. My brother, let's wait. You have yours, I'll have mine. You don't have to give me anything. So Yaakov says back, no, I beg of you. I have now found favor in your eyes, so accept my tribute. And as much as I've seen your face, which is I've seen the face of a divine being, you are appeased. Accept my gift, which was brought to you, and as much as God has been gracious to me, and as much as I have everything. You see the difference? Esau says, I've got a lot. Yaakov says, I have everything. What's the difference between those two? Like, what are they saying to each other? So Esau is saying, look, Yaakov, I own this world. I don't need you giving me gifts. I'm Bill Gates. You're some little schmendrick. What are you going to come bring me a pencil? It's below my dignity to take a gift from you. Who are you to give me a gift? I've got more than anyone, right? Actually Rob, he says, I've got a lot, right? Yeah, Yaakov, who doesn't have what Esau has, says back to him, oh yes, my brother, I have everything. So he's not outdoing him. It sounds like he's outdoing him. I've got a lot. Oh, you don't got nothing. I got everything. It's a frame of mind. No matter, when Esau says I have a lot, Esau's saying I got a lot, but I can take more. There's always more. Right? I might have $100 million, but I could have 200 million. Right? Yaakov says, you know what? I make $100,000 a year. I have everything. I don't need more. Whatever I have, I'm happy with. And that's a difference of how you look at the world. If you look at the world, and no matter what you have, you always want more, you've got a problem. If you look at what you get in the world, and you say, I'm happy with what I have, then you'll be a happy person. That's what Yaakov has. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not supposed to have drive and energy and want more money. There's nothing wrong with having more money. I go negotiate for a higher salary, even though the Torah says this. Why? Because that's not what it means. I can want more. I believe that I'm good enough to deserve more. I think that they haven't given me a raise in so long, and I'm making all this up because I should have more because they don't give me enough recognition. Whatever reason I want to say, right? Why is that not against the Torah from what I just told you? Because I don't judge my self-worth on how much I have. My purpose of life is not to acquire and acquire and acquire. But There's nothing wrong with having more. I can work hard, and I can build myself up, and I can acquire things. But whatever God chooses to give me, I'm happy with. If God says, this is as far as you're going, I'm going to keep trying, but I'll be happy where I am. Right? Whatever it is. And that is the definition of happiness. It says in Ethics of Your Fathers, who's rich? He who's happy with what he has. It doesn't mean a lazy guy who doesn't work. Somebody who works hard, but whatever he has, he's happy with it. He wants more, but he's happy with what he has. Right? That's rich. The same book tells us who's poor. A poor person doesn't have what he needs. That's a definition of poor. So you can say, I have what I need. So you can have no money and say, I have what I need. Then you're not poor. Poor and rich have nothing to do with how much money you have. It has to do with your frame of mind. So Yaakov is saying, no matter what I have enough. I'm happy. Esav is saying, I got a lot, but I can take some more. It's almost like Esav's negotiating. You want to send me 10 cows? I should be happy with you. You know what? I got a lot, but another 100 cows might be nice. Not 10 cows. You want to send me $1 million? You know what? You're insulting me. I'm the king. I don't even talk to people for under $10 million. Come, you want to come? I got a lot. Yaakov says, whatever you want is fine. Whatever, because I have everything. I'm happy with whatever I have. And that's the difference between a happy person in this world and one who's not happy in this world. And that's the two of them there. Then Esav says, in verse 12, travel on and let us go. I'll proceed alongside you. Esav now decides to Yaakov, you know what? I'm with you. I'm not going to kill you. We're going to be partners. I want to be with you. So Yaakov says, oh no, I'm not going to be partners with him. This guy is the epitome of evil. Right? So he says, my Lord knows that the children are tender and the nursing flocks and cattle are upon me. If they'll be driven hard for a day, they'll die. Let my Lord go ahead and I'll catch up to you. So Yaakov says to Esau, I hear you want to come together with me, but look, I've got nursing women. I've got baby animals. It's going to take me a long time to get anywhere. You're fast. You're an army. You go ahead. We'll catch up to you. Right? He has no intention of doing that. He's not telling him the truth. He does not want to live with Esau. Because Esau doesn't want to change and become a good person. He wants to be with Yaakov. Right? He's going to try to influence Yaakov, but Yaakov says no. So Esau says, let me assign to you some of my people. He says, look, I'll make you go faster. I'll give you half of my army. They'll carry the women that we're nursing. You don't have to worry about it. So he says, why? Look, just make it, Yaakov says, just be happy to see me. You're in charge. Just be happy. So Esau, it says, left, and he went to Seir. Now, he still thinks Yaakov is going to come, all right, behind him. But it says, but Yaakov went to Sukkot. They went two different directions. Right? Esau took off. When Esau was over the hill, he couldn't see him no more. Yaakov went the other way. Now, it's a funny line, it says. It says, Jacob journeyed to Sukkot, and he built himself a house, and for his livestock he made shelters, and he therefore called the name of the place Sukkot. So Yaakov goes to a place called Sukkot. What does he do there? He makes a house, he makes a shelter for his animal, and he calls the place Sukkah. You know how you say a shelter for an animal in Hebrew? Sukkah. So he goes to a place, makes a house for himself, he makes a sukkah for his animals, and he says, I got to come up with a name for this place. I'm going to call it sukkah. How come he doesn't call it house? I mean, what's more important? He makes a house for his family, which he does first, and then he takes care of his animals. The Gemara says that this is the first time in history that anybody ever made anything for an animal to take care of it. That the animal should not be out in the elements all the time, that it should be able to live, right, if it's necessary, to have a barn. Basically made a barn for it, that they should live in. Nothing fancy, right? But they called it sukkah because he was the first one in history to do this. He wants the world to understand that yes, you have to take care of your family first. You have to take care of people first. He built a house first. But you have to take care of your animals. Animals are here for us. That's why they're in the world. They're here for us. They make the world function correctly in all different ways. And just as they are here for us, we are responsible to them. Just like if you have a child, you're responsible to that child. right? You don't work for that child, but you got to make sure that he's healthy and taken care of, and that he has food and he has clothes and he has education. That's your responsibility. If you have an animal, it's the same. Like, you ever hear from someone who say, I don't want to get a dog? It's like having a baby in the house forever. I'm never going to be able to do stuff. Every time I got to get a babysitter when I go out because I got a dog. Right? Why? Because it's the same idea. An animal gives you responsibility, and God says you have responsibility. You have to take care of that animal. Right? In fact, you know that it says that every day, including Shabbos, before you eat, you have to feed your animals. That's a law. It said one of the signs of a person is showing that there's a question about their Jewish background is if they're cruel to animals. And I don't mean that they're sick. I mean, sick people are cured animals. You know, like mentally ill people can be. I'm talking about a healthy person, that they don't care. They don't care about the animal. Let the animal go. On the other hand, you got crazy things like, do you know that in Nuremberg, when they made the Nuremberg laws against Jews, right? You had this big, actually I just saw a picture of it recently. There's this big stadium, and Hitler's in the stadium, and he announced all the new laws that the Nazi Party made. And one of them was that Jews have no human rights. You can go into a Jew's house, take their stuff, you can kill them, nothing will happen to you. You can do whatever you want. But they made other laws there. You know what other law they made? They made a law that you're not allowed to bring a bear into Berlin, this capital. Why? Because the circuses would come with bears, right? Like the Russian circuses, they didn't treat them correctly. They didn't treat their bears with the right. They were suffering. They didn't have the right type of food and the right type of place. But they said, look, this is a circus. This is a bear. Big deal. Who cares? But the Germans said, no. You got to treat animals with respect. They treated animals better than they treated people. They take away the human rights of people, but they give human rights to bears, right? Because they were confused. So the idea is we have to treat animals with respect. They're not human. You build your house first, right, before you take care of your animals. But you better take care of your animals. And therefore, the Torah tells us they named the city after the fact that he took care of his animals. That for all of history, people should know you have to do that. You can't be irresponsible. You have to take care of your animals. Now, yeah.
Sorry, animals on Shabbos, is it muktzah?
There are some work animals for sure on muktzah.
Like
the question was,
the
so now when you're talking about pets, it becomes more of an argument. There are some, most people say they are, traditionally, because even if you had a dog in the house, traditionally, the dog was a work animal. Even if it was one that was domesticated, that could live in the house, it was a work animal. We live in a city, we don't have dogs as work animals anymore. But traditionally, that's what they were. So if you look in the law books, it says that they're muktzah. For that reason, there are those who are lenient today because they're not work animals, but there are other issues that come up from, strenuous, like roughhousing with a dog. You're going to pull its hair out. Not on purpose. You pet the dog really hard, you'll pull his hair out. You can't pull hair out on Shabbos, right? You have a number of other issues that come up that you have to be careful with. But there in our today's society, Jews who have animals are not necessarily doing wrong. Right? You have animals in their house and take care of them. But you have to, at the very least, you have to be humane. That's for sure. Right? So what we have now is probably one of the saddest things in the Torah, which is the story of Dinah. Dinah is the one daughter Yaakov has. She gets taken by Shechem, who's the head of a city-state called Shechem, and he rapes her. That's what happens. He rapes her. Now, there's a lot of odd things come up here. Now, the first thing that happens on this page, on 181, is that she gets raped, but he means well. In other words, he wants to marry her. He still did it. He still rapes her against her wishes, but now he wants to marry her. So his father goes to Yaakov to try to negotiate the purchase of his daughter. Right? And Yaakov is foreign to this. Right? This is not how we do things. And he doesn't let him. So the sons of Yaakov come, right, and they make a plan. So first thing it tells you that Yaakov doesn't do anything, and he waits for his sons to come. His sons come, and his sons decide that this is what we do. We're going to get the people of Shechem to circumcise themselves. Right? If you circumcise themselves, then we'll let our daughter marry you. Now, this was a lie. They were never going to let their daughter marry her. Yaakov's intent was that they would get circumcised. They'd be so weak from the circumcision that they could go in and take their daughter back with no problem. His son's idea was that they'd be circumcised, they'd be so weak, they could go in and kill them all and take their daughter back. Yaakov's never was his intent that they should be killed, but the son's intent was, and that's why later on, when Yaakov's dying, we'll see this in about 5 weeks, you see that he curses them because of that they did this, that they went out and they killed people when they shouldn't have, even if that was deserving or not. They shouldn't have done it, and because they were dishonest about it, and they did that. But here's where we see this discrepancy between them, and this very sad story, right, about what happens to Dinah, that she gets taken by this. Now, there are all types of midrashim about this that tell us what happened, that she got pregnant, she had a child, the child ended up marrying Yosef, and that was Yosef's wife later on. There are all types of different stories about it, but just simply here, we have really a very ugly time where the Jews go in and they wipe out an entire city-state of men to get their daughter back. Did they deserve it? Well, theoretically, the men should have stood up and against the king. On the other hand, the king could kill them too, right? So you have to understand it. It's a deeper thing. But I did see a very odd statement that I thought was interesting. It said, imagine Yaakov tells them, listen, we're going to get them to circumcise, that they'll all be weak, we'll take our daughter back. They go in and they kill them all. So if they went in to kill them all, like, why did they say circumcise them? Why didn't they say, all right, you want to be Jewish, you want to take our daughter, fast for 3 days. At the end of 3 days, you'll be Jewish and you can have our daughter. So they would have done it, because this Hashem was prepared to do whatever he had to do to get her. He would have done it. He would have fasted. Instead, he says circumcise. Why was that the case? So one of the commentaries I saw said something that was a bit off a little, but I think it tells us a message. And he said that when they circumcised themselves, to the best of their knowledge, they were becoming Jewish. And now, when the brothers came in and they killed them all, the brothers said, the world is not going to care. Up until now, us Jews are going to go in and kill a bunch of people from another nation. The world will be up in arms. How can a Jew kill people? But they're Jews. Nobody cares about a Jew who gets killed. So they said, this way we'll be able to get away with doing it, and the people of the world aren't going to say a word. Now, this comment that I saw was from the 1700s, but this is so real today, right? Because this is the message that you look what's going on in the world, and it's horrible what's going on in the world, and it is frightening. And one of the things that you see is that you can have people murdered in Israel every single day, and nobody says anything. Now, do I really need the world to say something? Like, does it make me feel better? No, but what it means is like, if you read my article I wrote this week that I'll be sending out tomorrow, you'll see I say in there, if you read Shakespeare, so Shakespeare has Shylock. Shylock says, if you pinch us, do we not bruise? If you cut us, do we not bleed? Are Jews different? Are we so different that the world should look at us like we're not human? Mm-hmm. And that's what bothers us when they don't put it in the newspaper. You put it in the newspaper, right? Like here they have this one case where these guys went and they insulted this Muslim woman on the subway, right? Yeah. And it was wrong. They shouldn't do such a thing. Yeah. It's right. They should not do such a thing. Can I understand it? I can understand it, but I condemn it. But you don't think that we know that when I go to Paris, I'm told, don't wear yarmulke in the street. There's so many Arabs there, they'll push you around, they'll beat you up, they'll do things. Right? You don't think that even here you have it happen, right? Right? So how come the world, if a Jew gets pushed around, right? How about the Jew in Israel last week? A guy's going with his son to go to the wedding of his daughter, and they murder him and his son 48 hours before his daughter gets supposed to get married, right? And nobody says anything. Like can you imagine if that happened in Paris? You had a couple go to that concert. You have a man go to that concert, and because right after the concert, his daughter's going to get married in that building, and they kill him. Right? The world would go crazy. Now, I'm not saying that they have to go crazy about us, but they're sending us this message, right? Jewish blood is cheap. Jewish blood is cheap. That's what it's saying. Right? The problem, my biggest problem with it, and this is what my article is about, is which can be found on our website as of today, is that we don't care. How come we're not running down the street screaming? I mean, every day there's 5 people killed, 10 people killed, 2 people killed in Israel. Americans, Canadians, 18-year-old boy was killed, right? 18-year-old boy from Boston, who I know, one of the guys in our shul, his son taught that kid 3 days before he was killed in yeshiva. Right? A regular kid. Right? They kill him. And what was he doing? He was going out to try to help somebody, and he gets killed. Right? Nobody says anything. Why not?
Because the media won't pick it up.
But why not?
Because they don't want to.
I don't think it's some people say it's because the media is anti-Semitic. Right? I don't know if that's the case, because the media is driven by money. And if they think that it's newsworthy that a Jew gets killed, they'll put it in the newspaper. Right? The fact that they don't put it in the newspaper is because it's cheap. We're cheap. It happens all the time. We Jews are constantly being killed, so they're saying it's not newsworthy. No one's going to buy a newspaper because a Jew got killed in Israel, so we're not going to put it in. That's all they care about, right? So that is where it's scary, because it's starting to get to the point where we Jews are thinking it's not newsworthy. We're starting to say, only 5 were killed, thank God. Only 2 were killed, thank God. Are we nuts? Do you know, I look at my article, I write down how many are murdered, how many have been hit by cars, how many have been stabbed, right? In the last 6 weeks, you wouldn't believe it. You'd think there's a war going on. It was like Vietnam all over again, watching body bags on the news every day. That's what's going on in the world. So that's scary. But with that, I have to stop because somebody is taking our room at 11 o'clock.